on the workshop.
Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So the purpose of this meeting / workshop is to discuss the concerns with the budget and figure out ways that we might be able to make this budget work for us. All right. So Ivy was gracious enough to make this amazing plan, which actually helps quite a bit with covering almost all of the shortages. So I'm just going to go through and kind of read to you guys what we're looking at. So one of the proposals that she made was to eliminate an unfilled special education teacher position as of right now for this year, which would be $164,900 savings. To change the nurse position to reduce the number of hours per day. Is there a requirement per law that the number of hours the nurse, you just have to have a nurse? Correct. Okay, so that reduction would be a $72,212 savings. Have you guys figured, given what they'll do during the hours of nurses, or what hours you would want?
Yes, so if you want me to, I can speak to the pros and cons for each.
Yeah.
If you want me to really start the top.
You can start wherever.
So we're faced with the need to reduce our budget. The bottom line being the $6 million. I collaborated with the SAU to come up with this proposal in an attempt to try and minimize things that kids would feel. So we wanted to make sure that for your average student here at MES, that they would have the opportunity to go about their business as much as possible. Each of these things, though, does come with a cost to the building in addition to the cost savings. So the first one is a position that we have not had filled. We had a half a position this fall not filled, and we have a full position not filled this winter and spring. This increases the amount of work on our 2 remaining special ed teachers, but it has not been something we can fill, and so we can say that we can operate under these conditions. It's hard. Our special ed teachers are working as hard as a person can in order to meet the service hours for kids, meet IEPs, and ensure that they are helping kids and fulfilling their legal obligations. So I would say with that one, it seemed like since we are currently operating without that made sense, and do know that that is benefits and salary. Okay. With the nurse position, we're proposing reducing it to 5 hours a day. A lot of that cost savings is with benefits. I was looking at a 10 to 3 position, thinking about the times of day in which kids are at recess, at lunch, and having a snack in order to minimize concerns with choking hazards, obviously recess incidents, and try and make sure that we had somebody on duty. That will put a strain on the building between 8:30 and 10.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
Do you have students that are taking meds in the morning that they're administering?
Currently, to my knowledge, we do not first thing in the morning, unless a kid has missed a dose at home and a parent has directed us to give meds.
Okay.
That is something that can fall underneath the principal or their designee, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So it is something that I can't swap in for. I will say that I am also aware that we do have EMS services between 8:30 and 10, that building is staffed.
Okay.
I don't think that's an ideal scenario. I am nervous about it. But that does save that amount of money with benefits and hours. Okay. The next line, I'm just sort of taking over. I hope
No,
that's
you're
okay.
totally fine. You did the work.
The next line we looked at was special ed support staff. We found 2 positions that are not currently filled due to a change in late November.
Okay. So the student isn't improving any longer.
We no longer need those 2 positions because of a change in student lead.
Okay.
One position is grant funded, so I do not believe that needs to come out of the operating budget.
Okay.
So that saves the $91,100.
Okay.
Okay. This one's hard. The next one is our head custodian position. So, eliminating that position entirely and replacing it with a part-time position with no benefits, so that would be 4 hours a day, reduces our staffing from 16 hours a day of coverage, essentially, there's a little bit of overlap, to 12 hours a day of coverage. I can't anticipate all of the ways in which that will impact the building. I can't anticipate. I think it's gonna be hard, and that's gonna be really hard. So there are parts of that job that I don't know how to do, or am not aware of, but I'm committed to thinking about the whole school and what will kids ultimately feel. I am not sure if we'll be able to find someone who wants to work 4 hours a day for no benefits, but hopefully we can. This is hard, right? This is hard, because this is the elimination of a position that exists already. I will say that the things that go into this job,
For the custodian.
yep, are multifaceted. It's a big job. And so saying we are no longer going to have this job could have a very big ripple effect. But the elimination of that job and replacing it with a part-time position will save us $76,000. Our next one is reading specialist. We have something called the Title I Entitlement Grant. My goal would be to fund $50,000 of that position from Title I funds. Title I funds are a federal government grant. I cannot predict what the future will hold with the federal government and grants. We have that money this year, and I am hopeful within a day or two we'll be in the process of applying for a waiver to have that money carry over so that we can fund that for a year. And let me just pause and say, a lot of the changes that we are proposing here are changes that are not sustainable long-term. These are changes that are meant to get us through one difficult year and then be able to figure out and spend the next year planning for and figuring out for. The reading specialist position is essential. It is one of the positions that is required by the state. So it's part of the minimum standards. I will share that we have tremendous growth in our kids' reading abilities because we have this position fully funded and full-time. So that is essential. The remaining items on this list, we have some Scholastic Book Fair revenue that we can support the library for a year. So you'll see that that's small change, $3,500. So we can get through and spend down that revenue that has accumulated over years. That's not a one-year thing, over years. And so we can spend that value down in order to purchase books for the library next year. We can do without replacement furniture and new furniture for a year if we need to. This summer I spent some of that budget on new chairs, which I think are not breaking. So we have some extra chairs, and that's like the number one thing that we often have to replace is student chairs. So we may be fine there. And then I removed the contracted services for middle and high school 504 plans. They were not used this year or last year, so I thought that would be a place where we could cut funds. All of this comes up to $448,397. Sorry, that's the amount that we need. My total proposed reduction is more than that, so that we have a starting point for talking. And I think like I put this out there to you all, knowing that we have something really special here at MES. We have a community of learners. We have a safe place for kids. We have people who are all in. My staff are all in for kids. And so this was really hard. And I understand the necessity of it. And I hope that when we make the plans for this year, we're thinking about students first. And when we think about next year, we think about how we can ensure that kids are getting their needs met. And that we are planning for all of the changes that are coming our way with contracted services, special ed, and question marks about how funding in the state of New Hampshire will continue.
Well, again, I applaud you, because I know how hard this was for you. I think you did great things, and I think that, like you said, I think this is a rough year, and we have to get through it, and this is not sustainable. I think that is huge. I think that is one thing that I really hope that people take from this is how much of a risk we take when we're taking away a teacher, at being able to provide kids with what they need to continue to grow and develop. The nurse, they understand, is, I think for me, the biggest concern is the custodian. I think the nurse, yes, I think that's nerve-wracking, I understand, but I think that you've done great things in processing out that there are EMS services available if need be, to get us through. But I am really concerned about the head custodian, and I really think we need to figure out how to not eliminate that, or make that change. I think it places the school at a great risk for maintenance. It puts us at risk for additional fees for having to have things repaired without having someone here all the time. What are you guys' thoughts on?
I completely agree with the custodian position, but I feel that we do need a full-time nurse. As somebody who recently went to work on Monday and got a call 5 minutes after I got to the office 45 minutes away that I needed to pick up my kid, I think that having them here in the morning is very beneficial because we don't need EMS to come because somebody's kid has a so, it's a lot of money.
Would have to come for an upset stomach. I think that with people here that can support, I think that it's not ideal, but those hours are winter. I mean, I think if it comes down to like having to make decisions, I think the custodian is a greater risk to the maintenance of the building. The school nurse where they have no one having medications administered, I think you're going to be talking about like people coming in with fevers or nausea and things like that. And I think that in a pinch that could be managed if we. I mean, I think if we can figure out a way to not do it, it's great. If this amount is this for the hires that we were hiring someone with the most experience based off of the salary, or
I believe that figure came from the midpoint.
What was currently?
Yes.
so for the current nurse, if we were to cut it.
Sorry, not budgeted for this year.
No, I know.
But the mid, that's right, so the mid, salary, average salary plus benefits.
So it's not enough of a cut to cut them down to not receiving benefits.
The nurse position?
We would have to make them part-time to do that, because at full-time, the IRS requires
Right.
benefits, so that's where we got, part-time, 25
Okay, so-
hours a week.
What are your thoughts, Kevin?
Rebecca? Can I?
Hold on one second. I'll open it to public input.
I don't know, because I agree with you on the custodian, but I am not convinced that we need that.
I think it's on people, but I think,
Obviously not.
yeah.
This is Heather. I have a question about the special ed support staff.
Go ahead, Heather.
Is Kathy over there?
No.
Okay. Does anybody here or present know how much we're spending in the special ed line on the two parents that we were contracting out for? And do we still need them? Because if they're duplicate, then we should be eliminating both of those lines, not just from the internal, but also the one we contract out for, and there may be extra funds there that we can offset some of these other
How many
things.
other things? Do you know?
So I'm not sure what she's asking.
The positions that Heather, do you want to say that again? The two positions, are they, I think two contracted, yeah, are they in the contract line for the?
That would not be in the wage, so these are district positions, so they'd be in the regular special education wages. And then contracted services would
it sounds like the change here came from a change in the IEP itself.
Students.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Heather?
As long as we're not having the same
Things in
thing in
multiple
two
levels.
areas and we're not.
Gotcha. Anything else from you guys right now? I'm going to open it up to public input for, the same regular rules that usually apply, 3 minutes per person. Go ahead, Christine.
Thank you. If the nurse position got cut for the 5 hours, there's always the potential to maybe have an open discussion with the fire chief, who's done a fabulous job of being able to staff the department in the morning, to maybe see if they would be willing to come down for a couple of hours. It would be a good opportunity for the kids to get to know some of the paramedics there, but then also kind of give everybody that peace of mind. That's always a thought, and I know he does have some paramedics, so he's got the higher trained level people. And then in this budget, the default budget, does that include the pay for the board? Because that's about almost 10,000 that we could save without eliminating a position. And then my last question or comment, or however, it's kind of the third rail that no one wants to talk about, but health insurance, potentially shopping and seeing if there are more cost-effective health insurance options. Because right now we're paying $625,452 for health insurance. So if we potentially found a health insurance company that was cheaper, this could alleviate us from having to cut a position.
We will definitely take that into consideration. Is there any other public comment? Just state your name first.
Yeah, Roby Jam. And just in curiosity, what were some of the ideas you came up with that you said, you know what, not a good idea, or this just missed the cut, and why did that just miss the cut?
Am I free to answer that? Or are we just?
That's Alec.
So, when I considered building this proposal, I really didn't want to touch kids. Kids have the impact. So, some things that we had discussed were half-day kindergarten instead of full-day kindergarten, which is not great for kids' outcomes. We thought about collapsing our 2 4th grades into one. The state of New Hampshire asks for a maximum class size of 30. We currently have 31 4th graders. So for 5th grade, that would be 31 kids. The school board can't give a waiver for that. That is not in anyone's best interest. We talked about reducing staffing positions that mandated could be part-time. One of the things that is incredible about this school is that when there is anything going on in the building and a kid needs support, a staff member on their prep or a staff member that does not have a student at that time steps in to help. And in thinking about my role as a principal and some of these other cuts that had to be made, pondering cutting staff that provide behavior support before a behavior becomes a big deal, that to me felt like a dangerous and slippery slope. So those were all things that I mean, everything was on the table when we pondered this. But these were the things I landed on that I felt like would insulate kids from the best. Thank you for that question.
Thank you. Aaron, but are there other grants we can apply for, or press motions by the public to petition for grants? Anybody can make our town's voice be heard and say, we have a higher than average special education needs percentage of student population, we get more grant money for this.
I can talk about that, but that's not directly related to staffing. So we did receive, I applied for and we did receive the SAFE grant, which was a state of New Hampshire grant that allowed me to upgrade our camera systems, our walkies, and some of our access control for the building. So that just got signed, so I'm just mentioning that right now, because I haven't made it. So that was.
$65,000.
Yep, yep, we are exploring these things. One of the challenges that I run into when I think about grants, and it has been especially challenging this year as a new principal stepping into this world, is that, I'm gonna say most, but the answer might be all, can't supplant things that you already have done in the building. So for example, Title I has been a grant-funded position in the past. It has never been out of the operating budget, so I can shift money into that for a reading specialist. I cannot ask for a grant for a reading specialist because that has been part of the operating budget already. So there's these restrictions that make it a little trickier. And I am not an expert in grants, so I can't speak much more than that. So we're trying to figure this stuff out. Absolutely, I am.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Sorry, that's what, it's more of a statement. If you'd like any help, I have some extra time, so I'd be happy to be an extra resource.
I am always willing to work with people who want to make it better. Great, thanks.
These are new treasures. Correct? Just for connecting.
Thank you. That would be great.
That would be great.
Other public input?
Rebecca. So, kind of to touch back a couple of meetings ago when Jonathan brought up the Medicaid reimbursements and all. I don't know how much we could potentially be getting back if all of the billing was being done. But maybe it's a good opportunity to educate the parents of the kids that are receiving those services about why the school asks for it. I'll be honest, when I enrolled Ben, and I saw the paperwork for that, I had questioned it. And I was just kind of told, don't worry about that, don't worry about it, you don't have to fill it out. Versus taking that time and that opportunity to explain how beneficial it is for everyone. I'm not sure, but I've been kind of like reading around and looking at other towns and such. But I'm not sure if, I was reading somewhere that private insurance could potentially get billed. The school would only get what the insurance reimbursed. The parent wouldn't be responsible for like the deductible or copay or anything like that. I think if that is a possibility, we should potentially look into that. I mean, myself as a parent and somebody who pays a lot of money for my health insurance, I'm already paying for it. So if I had the opportunity to hand over my insurance card to you and say, here, bill for my kid's services that he receives, and I don't have to pay for my copay or deductible, you're just getting that money, and it's saving money in the budget and in my taxes, I would be all for it. So if that could potentially be looked into,
Sure.
and then I think just better education to the parents of how it's beneficial.
For sure. So what we got from the district, the yellow paper, yeah, has anything been done? I know that they had, she happened to kind of play with it a little bit to see where cuts might be moving. Do you have anything with that?
I don't believe so. I think she annotated this
has special ed services identified for preschool, we have to send them somewhere. So that would require us to tuition them into other districts. Right now, our per pupil cost is far lower than any other school in our area. So I did not explore that avenue because it seemed like a net loss.
And we don't charge a fee for our non-identified students for pre-K.
We do, but it is minimal.
It's like nothing.
And I had a clarifying question. Is that a full-time position or is that going from a full-time down to part-time at $50,000 rate?
No, that is a full-time position that we will fund partially through the Title I grant.
Okay, perfect, thank you. And just from my perspective, I agree with Rebecca in keeping the custodian full-time and if we can do that and working on the nurse. I agree with that. Important to have during school hours as well.
Because figuring out how to come up with this $70-ish thousand.
I'm struggling with looking at where to cut because I don't have verifications on the figures from 1,100 on.
Yeah.
So on the salaries, I feel like we've got that covered, but from 1,100 on, I'm struggling because they don't, certain things I found. Certain aspects, so we need the verifications is what I'm looking for in order to be able to have an intelligent conversation about where we need to.
Where we can be actually.
So before we cut the other two, before we cut the nurse and custodian,
Yeah, I think we need back to the drawing board. I think we need to meet with Kathy is really where we're at to figure out, get a little bit better information about where we can pull from other places. Because it's just the lines, it's not super easy to figure. She put some notes on like certain things. We talked about before doing solar panels and potentially getting a grant for that. That, I mean, the electricity line is $31,632. I don't know what's still out there for grants. I can see if I can find something more about that. There was, I talked to Kathy about that at one point.
Rebecca, you can talk to Kate Bazard.
Who was it?
Kate Bazard, she's on the conservation. She came a few months ago to the school board asking about the electric bill. She was working with the solar company.
Do you have her number that you can message me?
I'll get it for you. Does this budget reflect the new pay scale for the bus drivers? Is there a way to pause that?
I mean, we'll have to figure it all out. I think you said it was already calculated in there for example. Carolyn, sorry.
Yes, that's the default,
Right.
so that's part of the regular wages.
Is our telephone just for landlines or is it for cell phones too?
Just for, we do not cell phone.
And it goes to the front office and your office, but, are there other telephones around or is it just?
So I'm gonna say more or less because there's a handful of spaces that just have one, but more or less we have connectivity in every room in the building so that if there's an emergency, anybody can dial out or dial in the office. Yep.
I'm a little concerned, buses, because it's calculated for 18,300, but it looks like our actual for last year was 28,000. It's line 27, 21 on the second page. The notations beside it. Because it's a $10,000 shortage.
I don't have that copy on me right now, but, what is the line for like workbooks? Because, like for the math workbooks, I know we waste a lot of paper with those, because my kids burn them most often, and most times, there's only a little bit used out of those, I feel like maybe we can copy opposed to purchasing all the books.
That was another thing that we had considered cutting. That line is, just a moment, I'm trying to find it. It's got roughly 4,500 consumable books. You want me to read you the number? So it's the 169, 1100, 640, and 1. Yep. Consumable books. $3,500.
And if we're copying, we pay like a fee, do we have,
I do, well, we have paper on paper, we have paper on paper, and then the copier, that is in here as one of our contracting services. Please look in the notes, and this is in the notes.
yeah, copying the contract agreement. I just didn't know if it, like, if it's just a fixed rate or if it's.
I think it's by the image, so, like, yeah, this one's better than that.
Can we find out how many, because that would be, I think that's a good idea to potentially cut more, as long as it's not gonna be a higher rate to.
I know those hard currencies, when they use books from home, just when they use books back, so, also environment. Okay. Same thing.
Heather, I'm sorry if this was mentioned and I just missed it. Is that 11,640 that we're spending on the books that would come out of the 610 line for supplies general?
No, that's the 640 was the line, it's 4,500.
It's consumable books, Heather, it's 1,100 and then the 640, it's on the second. Do you have the page that they sent us? The page they sent
Thank
us?
you, yes.
So it's the second page, it's about halfway down.
The copying costs is what you're looking at.
No, we were looking at the consumable books, so the workbooks that they're buying, instead of buying those books at the 4,500, seeing if we can make copies, where they're not really utilizing the books.
can just add, it's a little more complicated than that, because different grade levels might do more or less with each book, and that is a curriculum supported book with our math program. So certainly, we could be using the website and making copies of the pages that we want, but that, we are part of, that is our math curriculum, is that particular curriculum.
Do we pay a fee to use the curriculum or do we use it?
I'm gonna say yes to that, but that is a legit question mark, because if we were switching to online access, we would only be purchasing that portion. So it is not a one-to-one. I don't know. But that's a great question.
So the phone that we have, we're paying $12,700 contract agreement. Do we know when that contract is out?
For the phone,
Yeah, just wondering if we can find something that's cheaper.
I'm not sure.
Okay. Same thing on our internet, it's 15,040. I don't know, if we, do we just use the same as the other, like the rest of the district, or is there?
We have a bandwidth issue because we online.
Online, yes. you
Yeah.
definitely
We didn't have enough bandwidth, so we had to get more bandwidth. Pre-set internet.
have. We can show, because that's 15,000.
No, hopefully it's really.
Yeah. Well, there's contracts with both of those, so if we can find out when the contracts expire, and if we have the ability to either purchase it straight or just shop. if we left them the way they were.
Can I figure that out for them?
Well, it's adding,
It's more complicated than that.
okay.
I am
Oh,
not,
that's true.
yeah, I am not the BA, but I can give you maybe a ballpark.
Because at part-time, she's still prorated benefits,
Okay.
so it's not exactly.
What we would do is we would just look at what those positions cost.
Right, just leave it right.
Those is the amount again, to see what the difference is. Okay.
Yeah.
And while I'm looking stuff up, just something to think about, I feel like I'm just hopping in here on your meeting, I'm sorry. My staff feel very anxious about not having an answer, and, even though we are not discussing cutting teachers, cutting paras, cutting additional people besides what's on the sheet right now, if I can just speak on behalf of them, they're here because they are worried, and I don't want to put them in a situation where they worry for any amount of time longer than need be, because when teachers are worried, they look for other positions, and these people want to be here. So just something else to consider.
For sure.
So just so I have it in the notes, are we looking at, you're looking for alternatives to cutting the head custodian and?
Yes, we would like to avoid, if possible, cutting, or making the change to the head custodian and leaving it the way it currently is.
Okay.
And the same thing with the nurse, to leave the position the way it is, and where else we would be able to pull from to make up the, to cover those deficits.
I mean, this is Heather, this is just my perspective, I'm not looking at pulling from any other baseline for teacher staffing to do that.
No.
This is a question for me of, are we looking to continue cutting the areas that I just identified, or are we going to put it back to the voters with those two items in having a slight increase in budget?
In the budget, I see what you're saying.
The 6 million, that's just me, so, you know, I don't necessarily speak for the board as a whole, but from my perspective, that's all I'm looking at. I'm not looking at, being necessarily looking to the wage items at all. I think elsewhere, if we're gonna vote to try and cut it, to keep it at the 6 million, I'd be looking elsewhere, we'd be looking at teachers.
So, Caroline, if we were to do that, because we have not done that before, to do a special election like we did with, when we were doing the union, yeah,
Recount.
we could pre-present to the voters, leaving those two positions the way they are, but making the cuts we did in the other areas, so basically it would be,
150,000,
yeah,
maybe 140.
yeah, because we're over about 148.
Like 16 over.
But to be clear, for the special education positions, they're not needed right now, but it doesn't mean that they won't be needed later, right?
We haven't had it.
I wouldn't say they're not needed right now, I would vote.
We just haven't had it, so.
Yes.
Yes, they are not.
But they may be essential later if a new student comes in that needs those services.
Yeah, there's, so in terms of para
The
support,
paras.
that is dictated by student need. And if the student has a need greater than the building staffing we have right now, we would have to add that person back in.
And we don't have any costs that are left in the special education trust after this year. Can you find out for us what, I know we had only approved to take so much from it, but with the original anticipated cost, what's actually left? Because I think there was a little bit left, but there wasn't much.
Yes, I think it has over
I
300,000,
think it was like 350-ish or 370-ish.
and the board approved 200, so there's, guessing over 150,000 currently.
So there was more potentially. I feel like we needed more though. Like the proposed amount was, like, so that was my concern, like what the actual amount that they originally proposed. I know we didn't approve the whole amount, but if we can find out what's left, if we had Did you hear her answer?
It's a required formula, but it has an increase that we know at this point, if there's no entity.
Right.
That's my concern is that,
Well,
we don't think about those things.
right. Well, the note beside it now already says that the actual cost last year was $28,136, and we only budgeted for $18,000.
We have to go that way. So, yeah, I feel like I want to get more accurate, numbers on that. Usage of current rate.
Yeah, for sure.
And I just want to thank Ivy for the thoughtful way that she went about looking at this and proposing these cuts. I do really appreciate all the effort that went into that, and all the sessions that has been facilitated. Not easy finding things, so I really do appreciate all of that. That time and energy and really thoughtful consideration you put into these proposals for us.
So if we re-propose to the town to reconsider with those two changes, what's the process on that? We would make that decision at our next board meeting.
You'd have to make a board decision. I think you'd have to have a hearing, and it'd have to be posted.
Right.
With the same timelines, with the appropriate number of days for posting. Yeah, I think it's 7 days in 3 places to hold that. So, but we would want to make sure we get the actual timelines of the insurance.
Yeah, for sure. Before we do
Yeah.
If we have to hold budget committee public hearing as well.
It would be just like election,
Yeah.
same time frame and same process. And then you'd have to pay to do it all.
Thank you.
Sorry, I looked into it. Can I just say, before you guys go down that road, to make sure you cross the Ts and Is, my biggest concern is the cost of the health insurance, and my fear is with everything that's happened with this insurance through the state, and the huge increase and the huge costs that other towns, like some other towns have had to pay like well over $1 million
Yeah, ours was really slow.
compared to everyone else. But my fear is that other towns are gonna jump ship from this insurance because it's so expensive. And then the cost is gonna go up. And then what if we get hit with another bill in the fall? And they say you owe us $80,000 or $100,000, and we're just continuing to go down this rabbit hole. I really think, I know it's like the purple elephant in the room that nobody wants to discuss, but I really think it's worth looking at all of our options. If this was car insurance or anything else, and we got stuck with a big price tag, we would be saying, let's shop around at least and see what our options are. If it saves a position, if it makes working I think if we have to have another election and everything is not properly exhausted, you're going to alienate the voters more.
I appreciate that. Can you get me a cost of the pre-K, what we're actually charging per people?
For the typical students?
Yeah. How many students do you have per K? I don't know the number. You guys gave it to us a few months ago.
The other kids are in the process, so this number is in flux. We have about 6 students accessing that.
What is our max for the
For the space, I would not be comfortable with more than 8 students in that space. It is very small. And that's pushing it beyond We are supposed to maintain a 50% special ed population.
Isn't there also supposed to be, non-special ed students in preschool?
Yes.
In addition, like, as many special education
Yes,
students
so
as
that's
there are,
because
we don't have to run.
50% would be that.
Can you just say your name, sorry?
For the health insurance, is that something that helps us with quality of health insurance to retain teachers? Because of cutting the health insurance and getting a cheaper one impacts their benefits, I worry about teacher turnover and how that would impact the kiddos.
Health insurance is higher though, so either way.
I appreciate it. Any other public comments?
I don't remember this making any sense to me.
It's okay.
This is why I'm not the business administrator. So,
I have not either.
So I have, in the notes, I've highlighted questions that the board has, that include, electric, solar, fuel, workbooks and copying, phone service and internet, although I do know that's a
Another contract.
federal process, so we do, but we'll provide that information. Cost for pre-K, what are we charging? And, we can give you some information about the health insurance, as far as if there was a process, which I know that you engaged in a little bit with me. So we can have that information for you. And then also the amount, if the nurse were to be full-time and the head custodian were to be full-time, what is that amount that we would need to make up? And we can give you that information for your next board meeting.
That would be great. I think anything that you guys can get us sooner would be fantastic, but yeah, we appreciate it. Anything else that you guys can think of?
I would just, if I'm not allowed to ask, please ignore me, but I just wanted to know if the teachers being the ones in the classroom with the students, are there any ideas that you have of things that we
can I say, that's a really tricky question to ask them.
I will just say that we all, and Moshon, that's what I do. We love HRWS, we love our students. That's why we're all here. So we just want to keep what makes us so special. That's all I have to say.
I think on behalf of the board, we applaud you guys, and we appreciate everything that you guys do every single day. And this is not, I think everyone is just in a hard position, and I know that this has created such a divide in this town, and I don't think this town is against you guys. I think it's just everyone is tight, and everyone is trying to figure out how we figure it out. So I know this has been really hard for you guys, and we appreciate all that you guys are going through. We will do everything we can to find creative ways like Ivy has done to make sure that it doesn't impact our kids and you guys as much as possible. Is it possible to have no impact? Absolutely not. And we would be absolutely lying to you to say that there isn't. I mean, even just knowing that you're not going to have a special education teacher is going to have an impact. But we do appreciate you guys, and we will continue to do everything we can to figure out what we can between us and the taxpayers to keep everyone where they need to be. And we will work as fast as we can to get you guys as many answers as we can, because I know what it's like to sit in limbo.
You can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like it's only been the last 2, maybe 3 years that we've been in charge for a lot of the special ed stuff that was part of our tuition, including the extra teacher that we've now voted on twice and voted down. Is that an accurate depiction?
The teacher had been presented twice, yes.
So I'm wondering what has changed? Other than the superintendent, I'm not aware of, because aren't we paying as much in tuition as the other towns that send their kids to Kingswood?
Yeah, I mean, the tuition rate varies per town. It's
Well,
not,
where do we stand in the,
we're in the lower side. Our-
I think it
our
means
rate is
it's Middleton compared to all of Kingswood.
Because we had started at a much lower point, so when we started the stacker to go up, our increase was much less than other towns. So there are other towns that are paying the 27. Ours is still, I think we were at 17 something, yeah. So we're still paying significantly less than
but
others.
still we have the cost, we're getting billed for different special education
So I think-
programs that we weren't.
And I don't want to get into this a whole lot, but I think I've kind of spoken to this a little bit. So there's a per pupil rate. The need for this special education teacher that we presented twice is coming from the fact that I truly believe it would create a cost saving for the town. Having a child that's been up in the middle school with an IEP, I feel that there could have been a significant cost savings if we had someone that was actually here in this school and transitioned with my child to be able to advocate for the IEP that was in place when she was here. That created a lot of issues when we went up there, and her services not being made. They didn't actually need her services. So there created a lot of issues up there that I think would not have created the cost of the town to actually fight for the services that needed to happen, if that makes sense. So I think because there's such a limited access to case manager at the middle school, they have such a huge caseload that there are things that are falling through the crack. So I think in the long run, that position would actually create a cost savings because that person would be handling those services rather than us paying someone else to do them. If that makes sense.
I'm just having a hard time understanding. If you looked up the cost to the town, special education, over, say, the last 3 years,
There's been a lot of grant cuts in the last few years for special education too, and federal funding. I think that's a huge thing, like what our town is going through is not only this town. Like, we are not unique. Every town in the state of New Hampshire is going through this. I mean, everyone is having budget shortfalls because of the cuts to education and cuts to special education. So I think that's something to consider. I think our town has worked very diligently, and this school has worked very diligently. We have one of the lowest per pupil rates in the state. Do I think that there's always opportunities to try to do even better? Yeah, but I think that the reality is that we're not alone in this. Every school district is facing the same thing this year. And yes, special education costs have gone up and funding has gone down. You have more students identified today and more students that are qualifying for special education services than they were before. So I think there's always opportunities. We can always look, but I think things like this position that we've presented twice would actually present a cost savings, because I think when you look at these students that aren't identified, sending a student out of district is astronomical. But if you can meet that student's needs by having someone to support them, it can create a huge cost savings. So I think that it's something that we will consider to continue to present and encourage the town to consider, because I think though you have that sticker shock of buying that employee, the cost savings that it would cost, because when you talk about these special education students going to court and fighting and all of those things, those all are astronomical costs to the town. Whereas if we have someone that's in place to support them, we may not get there. We may be able to just take care of what needs to happen and get the students the services they need.
well, I understand what you're saying, but I think the sticker shock is
It's huge.
between the $500,000 last year and $500,000 this year. That's a pretty hard hit on the tax.
I agree.
And some people, are getting
Yeah,
to
it
the
can
point.
be home or not, whether you can stay.
The older people on a fixed income, which we have, quite a few of, I think, and that's what you're seeing. It was pretty obvious the way the vote went, where people's minds are at. I would like to make a comment. I'd like to thank you, ma'am. I can tell that, you know, you're truthful in what you're saying. You know, you care about our children. I'm sure it was hard on you, and I appreciate it. I only wish that the SAU and the school board shared your sense of fiscal responsibility.
I'm going to close public comment, and do we have to make a motion to close the budget workshop?
Just to adjourn.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn as of now. Would anyone like to make a motion?
No, I will make a motion to adjourn at 7:11.
Alright,
All in favor? Aye.
thank you guys for coming.
It would have been nice if the school board would have encouraged themselves and their positions until the school was on the board.